I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast.
John Douglas White was a minister in the small town of Mount Pleasant, Michigan. He was also an ex-convict with a history of attacking women over the past 3 decades. John had dark fantasies about his fiancé's daughter, which would result in Rebekah Gay's death in the early morning hours of Halloween 2012.
Paige and I want to welcome you to our Halloween episode. As you can tell, we're not in our normal get-ups. We are in costumes because, dear Lord, I had something in my throat. Because we are dropping this episode on Halloween.
And if you're a Patreon member, you'll get to see the full video of us dressed up in our Halloween outfits.
Let's discuss on what we are wearing today. So, Paige, why don't you go first?
So, for anyone listening, I'm a mini bar. So I've got a necklace with liquor on it, crown apple, we've got some Fireball, some Bacardi, and then I've got some Minnie Mouse ears. It's a little mini bar.
And those are all full bottles of alcohol. So
yeah,
by any point in this story, you can just untwist the cap and back it goes.
Honestly, with the chilling, horrific case that this one is, we might both need a little Fireball.
Yeah, I have nothing here. You can't give it.
You don't have Fireball at your house? You got nothing? You don't have wine?
No. I might if my husband hasn't drank it all yet.
Well, that's sad for you.
I am a flower child, but so I wanted to be a Scarlet Witch. That did not work out because of the whole crown issue. It was a thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I have this outfit and I have some flowers, so I'm going to be a flower child. My daughter thinks I'm a fairy, so we can also roll with that.
I could see flower child.
Flower child or flower fairy.
Oh, there you go. Best of both worlds.
Whatever. Yeah. And I promise you guys, I am not naked. I have something on. I didn't really think this process through, okay? Because I wanted my hair like this, and it's like, it looks
a little provocative. It kind of looks like you're topless.
I just want to state on record, Paige told me to wear something low cut.
I did.
And this is where it ended. It's very, very low cut. And I went so far to the point I was like naked, obviously.
So Halloween, not really my jam. So I went something very basic. And Angela loves Halloween, loves to dress up. So in an attempt to convince you to be free, be creative to your heart's content, I told you to wear something low cut and now you look naked. My bad.
My husband thought it's for the purpose of bringing all the boys to the yard.
Your milkshake?
I was like, that is not going to happen. But if anything, I think your mini bar would bring a lot of the boys to the yard.
I think we have the best of both worlds. You look naked and I've got the alcohol. We went trick-or-treating last year and somebody in the neighborhood was giving out little mini bottles of Fireball. I thought that was amazing. Not going to lie.
To the adults, I hope?
Yes, to the adults.
Okay. It's just trick-or-treating is mostly for kids. I'm just saying.
I'm there too. I can't have any Fireball.
That's true. I totally dress up and try to get the candy, all the candy I can get.
To gain access to this full episode, including video, you can support this podcast by heading over to Patreon at patreon.com/corruptpodcast. Conspirator and Corrupted tiers get early access to new episodes dropping on Mondays.
Our case today starts when 24-year-old single mother Rebekah Gay is reported missing on Halloween 2012. Rebekah was described as caring, fun, and hardworking. She graduated high school in 2007 after studying cosmetology. She had recently been promoted to a management position at Goodwill and changed her work hours to first shift to give her more time at home with her 3-year-old son, Conway. Rebekah and Conway were really excited for Halloween and trick-or-treating.
With Conway being just 3 years old, it would have probably been his first year that he would have been really excited about trick-or-treating and getting to eat the candy.
Yeah, absolutely. When scarecrows came into Goodwill, which I didn't realize that was an actual thing, that scarecrows would come into Goodwill often.
Yeah, they made it sound like they got this whole shipment of scarecrows.
Yeah, like sign me up for that.
I don't know if this is like a big Goodwill and we have just a small one near us. Like ours is all like hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they meant though. Maybe it was somebody donated a ton of scarecrows.
Or she collected them like yearly. That would have been a lot of patience.
No, this was like a ton of them came in at once.
Wow.
And Rebekah was super excited about it.
So Rebekah bought like 8 of them for her front yard and to make it even more fun for her 3-year-old son, Conway.
Rebekah had a good relationship with Conway's father, Chad. She also had a boyfriend, Aaron, and things were getting serious. Unknown to Rebekah, Aaron had bought a ring and was planning on proposing to her. Rebekah attended the Christ Community Fellowship Church with her mother, Sally. Sally's fiancé, John Douglas White, was the pastor of a small 14-person congregation there.
Rebekah and her siblings had been upfront with Sally, their mother, about their opinions of John. Rebekah said that John creeped her out, and since her hair had been permed, she had noticed John watching her. John was showing up at Rebekah's work, acting strange too. He lived a row behind Rebekah and Conway in the same trailer park. She was so uncomfortable that she was thinking of moving.
None of Sally's kids liked John, but he was nice to her and a pastor, so Rebekah not only attended his church, but also allowed John to watch Conway on Wednesdays and take him to a store parking lot for Chad to pick him up. On the night of October 30th, 2012, Rebekah spoke with Sally and Aaron on the phone. They discussed the following day, where John would drop Conway off with Chad, Conway would spend the day with his dad, and then Rebekah would pick him up for trick-or-treating. Her last phone call was made to Sally at 10 p.m.
So just for clarification here, they made a plan for John to come pick up Conway the morning of Halloween.
Yep, this was something that they did pretty much every Wednesday. And this Halloween actually fell on a Wednesday.
Okay. Then later that night, Rebekah would come pick him up for trick-or-treating.
She's first shift now, so probably late afternoon, early evening. She's going to swing by, pick Conway up from his dad Chad's house, and then take him trick-or-treating.
Okay. The following morning, October 31st, Rebekah didn't show up for work. By noon, they still hadn't been able to reach Rebekah. The assistant manager remembered that the trailer park Rebekah lived at was off of Coldwater Road, but no one at the store knew which house was Rebekah's. That's when they remembered that Rebekah had purchased those 8 scarecrows for her front yard. Armed with that information, her coworkers were able to locate her trailer in the park.
When the assistant manager arrived, Rebekah's house was locked, but she wasn't answering the door. They did notice that Rebekah's Buick wasn't in front of her house, but was parked at a bar parking lot that was diagonal and 300 yards from her trailer. The Buick had been backed into some trees and was almost hidden. The bar employee who closed the bar the prior night said that the Buick hadn't been in the lot when he closed the bar up in the early morning hours of Halloween. The assistant manager went into the bar, and they spoke to the bar owner. This bar owner just happened to be related to Rebekah's landlord.
The police and Rebekah's family were notified that she hadn't arrived at work. The ball was rolling, and within a couple of hours, the landlord unlocked the door to Rebekah's trailer. The police were not able to enter the house since she wasn't technically a missing person yet, but the landlord could. They found Rebekah's purse sitting on the table, but her car keys and wallet were gone. There was no sign of Rebekah. The police investigation was on hold until 4:30 p.m. when Rebekah should have picked up Conway from Chad. Just a few minutes after the missed pickup, the police opened a missing person file. The trailer and vehicle were searched, and some sinister evidence was found.
They suspected there was a struggle due to a dent in the wall. Then there were spots on the carpet that appeared to have been scrubbed, but were still matted up with what appeared to be blood. Rebekah's Buick driver's seat was pushed all the way back, but Rebekah was of a small stature. Law enforcement started the investigation by speaking to Aaron. The last time Aaron spoke to Rebekah had been the prior evening, and she told him that she would be going to bed. After that phone call to Aaron, Rebekah spoke with Sally. Aaron had texted Rebekah wishing her a happy Halloween, but her phone did not show that the text was read. Aaron cooperated fully with the police, and they moved on to Chad just hours later.
Chad told law enforcement that there were no issues between him and Rebekah. Chad was irritated with the delay in speaking with police because he wanted to be searching for Rebekah. Chad did tell the detectives that John had met him at the Meijer grocery store parking lot to drop off Conway, but it wasn't strange because John frequently helped out by dropping Conway off with Chad.
Moving right down the line, John was brought in for an interview with police. John said that he arrived at Rebekah's trailer around 6:30 a.m. on Halloween. The front door was unlocked, so he let himself in and laid down on her couch. Rebekah was in the bathroom when he arrived. She yelled out at him to make himself at home until Conway woke up. John said that he never actually saw Rebekah that morning. He fell asleep, but vaguely remembered her asking him to turn down the furnace when he and Conway left that morning. Then at 8 a.m., Conway woke him up. Conway was stoked for Halloween, so John dressed him in his Spider-Man outfit and then dropped him off with Chad at 8:30.
John had a cut on his nose during his interview, but he said a shelf in his trailer had fallen on him. John even showed law enforcement the shelf which had fallen on his nose. The story seemed plausible, but John was the last one to possibly see Rebekah alive, and they had to look into John's background. In the same afternoon, John also spoke with some of the congregation about Rebekah's disappearance. He asked them to pray for Rebekah's safe return home.
Law enforcement requested a polygraph test from John. At first, he didn't want to do the test, telling law enforcement that he was nervous due to a prior attempted murder case that he had. And at this point, you can literally hear the alarm bells going off in law enforcement's head, right?
Yeah, red flags.
Tell me about this attempted murder case there, John, because we've got questions.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a hiccup here in your history.
I had some shenanigans here, officer, but in no way involved with my missing fiance's daughter.
And not to mention, I don't know if he used this as an excuse, but he was a pastor, right? For church. It's only, 14 people? 14 people congregation. That's a very, very small congregation.
It's a very small congregation. Yep.
Nothing against pastors, nothing against any of that. But he may have used this as an excuse to maybe, I don't know, for law enforcement not to look into it further. I just don't know if he actually did.
I don't know if he did either. He just kept saying in the interrogation that I saw, he just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know what happened to her. Repeating, I don't know so many times. He doesn't have, they're on to him and he doesn't have anything other to say other than, I don't know, officer. But I'm sure he did try and use it look at my credentials. I'm a pastor. I wouldn't be at all involved in this.
Yeah. Did you know I found Jesus? Did you? What?
So let's pause and go back in time to talk about Pastor John Douglas White. Born in the 1950s, John served in the Navy. After his service ended, he took a job as a long-haul trucker.
Frederick Nickel worked with John during his trucking days. Frederick said that John was usually laid back and easygoing, but then also,
he was kind of a perv. He knew how to talk to all the prostitutes on the radio. He knew where all the seedy semi-truck stops were. All of his stories from the Navy had to do with ports of call and ladies of the night.
Definitely sounds like a perv to me.
He's 100% a perv.
By 1980, 22-year-old John was married and living in Battle Creek, Michigan. He convinced his 17-year-old neighbor, Teresa Etherton, into his basement to look at a stock car racetrack he had built. Once in the basement, Teresa was choked and stabbed 14 to 15 times. The first stab came from behind, striking her right shoulder blade. John thought she was dead, but miraculously, Teresa survived. During the attack, John told Teresa,
"You're going to go now. I'm really sorry you had to go like this. But what the fuck? You're just a woman."
Teresa said also that during the entire attack, John was smiling as he was stabbing her.
It's an interesting look into why he's doing this. You're just a woman. And as I was researching this, I could not find anything about his past. Like, he's born in the 1950s. That's pretty much all you get. He was in the Navy, but I don't know what kind of upbringing he had, if he came from a history of abuse. There's just nothing out there.
Yeah, like if he had some childhood trauma affecting him.
Something with, I don't want to like point fingers at his mom, but it's typically like your mom. Sorry, mom, but it's your mom that jacks you up, right?
Yeah, because moms are so motherly and loving, and they're supposed to give off that energy. And if you don't have that, or if it's the complete opposite, who knows how you'll grow up.
Yep, exactly that. You need that nurturing. Maybe he had, on the flip side, maybe he had a past girlfriend with a bad relationship. Something went wrong. Think Ted Bundy there. I'm not really sure what happened, but it's an interesting, "You're just a woman." That's an interesting statement from him.
Or even, this is a thought, like, I'm not blaming truck drivers, but some truck drivers that abuse their job, that are out on the road, and like, you do you, whatever, my man, that's your choice. That's the girl's choice too, hopefully. But maybe he was like exposed to that it influenced him to like go this route.
I went a slightly different route with that, actually. So I think, like all professions, truckers get a really bad rap because they're traveling who knows where. My mind with John goes to, this attack with Teresa is not his first. Like, he convinced her into his basement where he's stabbing her. That's going to be a lot harder to hide than some girl he picks up at a truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm like, I don't think this was his first assault or attempted murder, or maybe even murder.
Yeah, because he could have definitely very well done it on the road as well before that.
Yep. And left them anywhere.
Mm-hmm. We just don't know.
Exactly. And this is, the early 80s. So you would have no idea. 1981, John pleaded no contest to charges of assault with intent to do great bodily harm. John told the judge that people had been telling him that he had a problem, but he just wouldn't listen until after the attack. He was given a sentence of 5 to 10 years for the stabbing. John appealed the sentencing, saying that his attorney should have raised the insanity defense during the trial. John's father had paid for his attorney, but instead of paying the $1,000 for the psychiatric review needed for an insanity plea, his attorney had ignored the option to save the little money. His appeal won, and after only 2 years behind bars, John was released in 1983. He was given 2 years of probation and required to attend a mental health treatment program. That was it. He's out again. Just blows my mind.
So he played the insanity plea. His attorney didn't do what now? He didn't pay the $1,000. I'm sorry, I need clarification. He didn't pay the $1,000 for the psychiatric review that John wanted?
Yep. What John says is that he needed to have that psychiatric review, regardless of the expense, right? He needs that psychiatric review. But his attorney didn't do it because it would have cost his dad more money. He could have got, a lesser sentence because of this insanity plea.
Okay, because I was already thinking 2 years was already less enough. You know what I mean? So I thought he won anyway. Like, he won the appeal, obviously, but he could have even gotten a lesser sentence than 2 years if his attorney would have paid the...
Right.
Oof.
If he had been deemed insane, then he could have got, maybe it would have been an 18-month sentence because he was technically a first-time offender. But instead, he was given up to a 10-year sentence. He didn't get the trial that he should have had the first go around. So he's let out on a technicality.
Do you think people like John that go the insanity defense route, like the fact that they bring it up themselves, are actually insane? Like the fact that they're saying, I'm here, I know I'm insane, I need to be in a mental institution. Do you think those people are actually out of their minds insane? Or do you think they actually have some sort of conscious thought about, I can get it out this way?
Is this like, if you think you're a good parent, you're actually a bad parent?
Yeah.
If you think you're insane, you're actually not insane.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
I don't know. Did somebody, he goes into jail and somebody was like, oh, dude, you're totally insane. You should have pled insanity. I don't know how that cookie crumbled. Maybe he got a public defender the second time and they recommended that he go for the insanity plea for his appeal. Because, I'm sure he was appealing no matter what. It's just what they always do.
Yeah. I was just interested in what your take was on like that, because I totally think it's a scam. I feel like if...
I don't know that you can say it.
I know.
I mean, you can.
I'm sorry. I do. Like, I feel that people that say, I did this, but I'm insane. I need a review, insanity review. I did this because I was insane.
Because they're claiming they're the victim?
If you're conscious that you're insane, then you're obviously playing the game here. You're playing the cards to get out of the situation. That's where my mind goes. I see where you're coming from too, because I get it. Like,
it's there for a reason. Like you want the right people to be able to use this.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But you would also want them to go to a hospital instead of a jail. Like you want them to follow the right pathway. And in John's case, that was a pathway to freedom, tragically.
Yeah. Our most recent episode, Ed Gein, I would completely 100% agree that he would be insane.
Yep. And he went to a hospital.
Yeah, there's characteristics that he displayed that he was insane. Did he for once say, that I'm insane? I need checked. You know what I mean? Like that's like my kind of perspective on it. So I don't 100% agree that John here is actually insane. I think he knows what he's doing.
Utilizing it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Ed's case, he goes the opposite way, right? Like he goes to the hospital, but then years later, he's asking for release. He's saying, I'm not insane. I can work as a handyman. I guess it kind of goes both ways. But he was clearly on the insanity plea. That's a legitimate case.
Yeah, I think he had some mental issues.
And there's another one with your mom messing you up.
Yeah.
Augusta.
Damn Augusta.
This is a good time if you haven't listened to episode 36 on Ed Gein. Just hop on over to that, add that to your queue when you're done. That one's sure to horrify you as well.
Yeah, that was a rough one for me. It was a really, really rough one.
It was a rough one for you.
Yeah.
You were grossed out the entire episode.
The whole time. Teresa was not notified of John's release, and she would run into him while standing in line for a government agency. Teresa says that she had been hearing John's voice in her head every day for years. So when she heard John's voice and turned around to see her attempted murderer smiling at her, she was devastated. Over a decade later, another woman would be attacked. 26-year-old Vicky Sue Wall worked with John at a textile company in 1994. According to John, who was married with 2 children and a third on the way, he was having an affair with Vicky that summer of 94.
At 3 a.m. on July 11th, 1994, surveillance video from a Myers parking lot in Comstock Township, Michigan, showed Vicky climbing into a black pickup truck. The driver of the truck was a bearded man. Vicky's body would be found 6 weeks later with advanced decomposition. Thomas Meskel was walking on his parents' land when he saw drag marks off the side, so he went to investigate. He didn't make it very far before he found a single white sneaker, then a pair of women's underwear, and finally the body of Vicky Sue Wall. The wooded location was 2 miles from the Myers grocery store where she was last seen. She was naked except for a shirt and bra around her neck. Vicky's cause of death was undetermined due to decomposition, but the pathologist noted that the manner of death was suggestive of homicide.
A week after Vicky's death, John voluntarily checked himself into the Kalamazoo Regional Psychiatric Hospital. This is where police found him after he was identified in that surveillance video. I just want to point out, it's Myers again.
Yes.
It's weird.
It's always Myers in this one.
John said that he picked Vicky up, then dropped her off a while later. He refused to take a polygraph test, but a luminol test was performed on his truck. Blood was found in several areas, but with an undetermined cause of death for Vicky, the police were running on minimal evidence. They speculated that John was feeling pressured about the affair he and Vicky were having, so he murdered her.
John finally admitted that he had been with Vicky at the time of her death. According to John, Vicky had an overdose on drugs provided by him, and she had died. He panicked and abandoned her body in the woods.
This whole excuse doesn't make sense, because her body is naked, so he abandoned her body naked? Like, what's the excuse on how that happened, John?
Her clothes fell off while she was having an overdose, clearly. John was charged with open murder. There was no hard evidence that John's story wasn't true, and he would plead no contest to involuntary manslaughter, receiving an 8 to 15-year sentence in 1995. At his sentencing in May 1995, John said that Vicky's death was a tragic accident and he loved her. Clearly seeing through John's lies, a sheriff deputy was quoted,
"You'd like to see him go away for life, but you get what you can get."
While in prison, John admitted to a psychologist that he had fantasies about killing and having sex with the dead body. Even with the past convictions and the most recent confession, John was released with 12 of his 15-year sentence served. He was a free man again in 2007.
We're a little hazy on when John became a pastor, but either during his time in prison or recently after his release, he found religion. By 2006, he was dating Sally Gay, Rebekah's mother, and in 2009, he accepted a pastor position at Christ Community Fellowship Church. The Christ Community Fellowship Church elders and Sally knew about Vicky Sue's death. They decided to give John a chance after he explained the situation, saying that he was young. Vicky had overdosed, and he had panicked without calling 911 like he should have. They forgave him and allowed him to remain as a pastor without realizing the extent of his violent past.
2012, John was living in the same trailer park as Rebekah and Conway in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Police had requested the polygraph in regards to Rebekah's disappearance, but John had declined. It was Sally that actually convinced him into the test. The drive to the polygraph test was an hour long, with John and Detective Sergeant David Patterson in the car, apparently forgetting how easy it would be for law enforcement to find out the facts, including the omission of a conviction in the death of Vicky Sue Wall. Detective Patterson said,
"He told me that he did 2 years from that, but the case was thrown out. He got released."
Obviously, only telling the detective about Teresa's attack, completely forgetting about Vicky Sue Wall and the 12 years that he did for that.
But it was on purpose, obviously.
Absolutely.
Son of a biscuit.
It was absolutely on purpose. And he's dumb because he's just filling in all of the small blanks for Detective Patterson.
I mean, can we talk about the fact that it was an hour to get him to the polygraph test? Like, there wasn't anything closer to them. Was that their tactic, maybe? Just to pressure him more, in the car?
Maybe.
I'd be like, wasn't there a station back in the city?
An hour one way. So me and you, we're going to be BFFs by the time we get out of this car.
Yeah. It's just a thought.
I also noticed that Sally and John get together in 2006, but he's released in 2007. So she would have known that he had been in prison.
I didn't catch that. So he was in prison when they were together?
He was in prison until 2007, but they got together in 2006.
So they must have been pen pals or something.
That would be my assumption, yep.
How does that happen? How does one in prison date someone else outside of prison? Do the prison people initiate it, or do the people outside of the prison initiate it? Do they reach out or reach in this case, inside the prison and be like, hi, I just want to be your friend? Or Sally was very religious. Maybe she was very religious. So maybe she was sending a letter to him, get right with the Lord. You know what I mean? You hate me right now.
I went the other way. I was thinking maybe she was being a good Christian and writing to someone in need.
Yeah.
You know, offering them moral support. Do you need a friend? And maybe it turned into something more.
Okay. Yep. Yep. I mean, that's basically what I said. But
it sounded like you did wrong. You need to get right with the Lord. Sorry, that's how I took it.
Get with the Lord.
Listen, John, don't murder anyone. You need to get right with the Lord.
Don't stab people 15 times. Well, she probably didn't know that one. But
did she? That's the one he admits to law enforcement.
Okay, then maybe she did.
It makes you wonder what she did know. The elders obviously know about Vicky, and he tells law enforcement about Teresa. So he's not doing so good about who he's telling what to.
Yeah. It just goes to say, like, how much do we let leaders commit crimes? Like, how long do we let that go? And how many times do we have to forgive them for it? You know, like, especially leaders in a church. Like, because that happens a lot.
Leaders everywhere.
Yeah, 100% leaders everywhere.
That can be your boss that's taking advantage. That could be literally anyone, anywhere.
He was not, like, he literally committed these crimes. Granted, like, the church was only 14 people, so it wasn't much to convince. But, you know.
How many of the 14-person congregation are the elders? Like, is that 3? Is that less than 7? So it's less than 50%? I'm unsure. It's almost everybody in the church would know about his past then.
Beats me. But they were probably very forgiving people.
As John was completing the polygraph, a state trooper found blood and a necklace in the bed of John's truck. The necklace clasp was broken, like it had been ripped from someone's neck.
The polygraph results were reviewed the same evening. John had been deceitful and failed the test. Even though the test was completed, the police wouldn't let him leave. His house and vehicle were now part of a search warrant, and police were closing in. John was placed in an interrogation room, but he just kept repeating the same story over and over. He hadn't seen Rebekah, and then she had left for work. The search at John's trailer found construction garbage bags, a rubber mallet, and zip ties. They also found women's underwear in an extra small size, which would have been similar in size to what Rebekah would have worn.
Law enforcement started pushing on John, telling him that Sally wanted to know where her daughter was. John loved Sally, so this was something that the detectives used in their favor to sway him. In the early morning hours, John asked for an attorney. Then, after having some time to think, he changed his mind and asked for a deal. In his plea deal, he wanted his phone call to Sally, life in prison, and segregation, so he wouldn't be with other prison inmates.
John's phone call to Sally is cryptic. He tells her that she's the love of his life. Then he starts apologizing, but never tells her where Rebekah is. John told Sally,
"What's done can't be corrected,"
then hangs up the phone without an explanation about what happened to her daughter.
What a jerk.
Yeah, complete coward.
Because now she's terrified, knowing that something happened to her daughter, and he does not even explain it.
At least have the decency to admit it. You know, like, it takes more courage to admit it, admit that you did something wrong. It might have helped him in the long run. I'm not saying I wanted that, but coming to terms with it, being truthful, being honest to someone that you love or that you claim to love.
If he had truly loved her, he would have never murdered her daughter, right?
Yeah.
But I'm with you. All he had to do was say, "She's dead. I murdered her." Because he's about to confess anyways.
And that's all that she wanted to hear. You know, she wanted that closure. Just a day after Rebekah's disappearance, police would have a confession on November 1st, 2012. John confessed to having necrophiliac fantasies in the weeks leading up to Halloween 2012. Specifically, he had been having fantasies of necrophilia with Rebekah. He continued by saying on October 30th, he had 4 to 5 beers and watched porn where people were having sex with dead bodies. Is this something like that exists on the dark web? I'm assuming, because that's disgusting.
This exists, yes.
That's messed up.
Rebekah's back door was unlocked because John had left it unlocked. She came down the hallway when she heard the door open, but John hit her repeatedly with a rubber mallet until she was unconscious. Rebekah had scratched John's face as she fought for her life. She was still breathing when John told her, "Oh, I brought zip ties," then tightened it around her neck and sat in a chair while she strangled to death.
He strangled her to death with zip ties. I just want to say he's a punk ass bitch, because she was probably really defending herself. And the fact that he said, "Oh, I brought zip ties," it was like an easy way for him to strangle her. He didn't have enough effing man strength to choke her out because she was defending the shit out of herself, and she probably would have won. That's how I like to think of it.
I think he didn't want to have his hands around her neck, but this was clearly premeditated, as he had the mallet and the zip ties with him and had left her door unlocked. He knew what he was doing.
In his initial statement, John said that once Rebekah was dead, he dragged her into the kitchen to remove her clothes and have sex with her, but then he wasn't aroused, so he didn't rape her.
We're going to see that this was a lie.
He cleaned up the blood with towels, then put Rebekah in the contractor bags, then into the bed of his truck. Leaving Conway home alone and asleep in Rebekah's room, John dragged her down a ravine and left her body behind pine trees. He moved her car, then laid down on her couch and fell asleep. This is where Conway found him at 8 a.m. and woke him up. Conway was so excited for trick-or-treat, so John took care of Conway and dressed him in the Spider-Man costume. Then he dropped Conway off with Chad.
Rebekah's body was found exactly where John said it would be. She was lying face up and naked in the woods with ligature marks around her neck. The autopsy found that she had been raped, either when she was still alive or close to when she was killed. On November 1st, 2012, John was arraigned on charges of 1 count of open murder and 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder. A public defender was assigned to John, and Rebekah's body was sent to Grand Rapids, Michigan for a full autopsy.
On March 27, 2013, John pleaded guilty to charges of second-degree murder and as a habitual third offender for Rebekah's murder. The court would decide the sentence term with a minimum of 45.8 years.
In Michigan, a habitual third offender is a person who is convicted of a felony after having 2 prior felony convictions. The penalty for a third offense can be a 50% higher maximum sentence depending on that offense.
Then on April 18, 2013, John Douglas White was sentenced to 56 years in prison. And at 55 years old, this was basically a life sentence.
Which honestly, it should have been a life sentence, but I believe that he did get that deal, and life in prison was taken off the table, but a minimum of 45.8 years was given. It was premeditated murder, right? He was watching her, he left her back door unlocked, then he murdered her. And where exactly were the child endangerment charges for leaving 3-year-old Conway alone?
That's what I was thinking. He had to have been charged with that. I don't know, maybe there's specifics behind that. Like he wasn't the guardian, so he wouldn't be charged because he wasn't in charge of him.
I think if you take away the child's guardian, then by default you should be responsible for that child. In this case, he murdered Conway's mom. So Conway could have woken up at any point and seen what was happening, or he could have woken up while John was leaving Rebekah's body or moving her car. He's literally 3 years old. He's at home all by himself.
I wouldn't want John to be responsible for Conway whatsoever. Like if I was a mother that was murdered, I wouldn't want my murderer to be in charge of my child.
I know. And it's just like so eerie. Like he lays down on her couch, goes to sleep for a couple of hours, and then gets her son up like everything's right as rain. Sally read her victim statement in April 2013, saying,
"For 20 excruciating hours, we prayed that Rebekah would come home. She was not yours to take. How dare you?"
But John didn't even have an expression on his face, and Sally speculated that he had committed the murder so that he could return to the structure of prison. Just 4 months into his sentence, at 4 a.m. on August 28, 2013, 56-year-old John would be found hanging in his jail cell. Emergency personnel attempted to resuscitate John, but he was declared deceased at 4:38 a.m.
I have a thought, okay? Sally speculated that John committed the murder so he would be in the structure of prison. So going back to how she met John, he was already in prison. So, right, she knew that he maybe had these fantasies, these tendencies, I don't know, like that he had stuff wrong with him. And that's the reason why she had thought that he needed to be in prison, or he committed this murder because of that. I don't know. It's just a weird kind of take on it. Seemed like she knew quite a bit about him.
Maybe she knew more than we think that she did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she knew the whole story, but believed that he was a changed man. To our knowledge, Teresa Etherton is the only living survivor of John Douglas White. She got married and did an interview in 2012 following John's arrest. Vicki Sue Wall is buried at Riverside Cemetery in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Rebekah Jane Gray is buried at Jerome Township Cemetery in Sanford, Michigan. She is remembered as a loving and devoted mother to Conway and was affectionately known as Becca Boo by her friends and family. As we wrap up here, all I can think about is that little boy had to grow up without his mommy because of John's stupid temptations or fantasies or whatever you want to call them. I hope wherever Conway is now in the world, he's surrounded by love and he lives with his mom's spirit.
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye!
Bye!